Hello, hockey fans, and welcome back to another episode of Whatever Happened To, the series where we take a where are they now look at players who found success in the National Hockey League but are no longer permanent fixtures in the league, either due to controversy, poor play, or just rotten luck. In today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at a 9-year veteran of the league, as we ask, whatever happened to Cody Franson? Chosen 79th overall in the 2005 NHL entry draft by the Nashville Predators, Cody Franson spent the next 2 seasons following his selection with the Vancouver Giants of the Western Hockey League, where he scored 106 points in 130 regular season games, as well as 27 points in 37 playoff games. These strong numbers also helped Franson earn several accolades, such as a WHL championship in 2006, as well as a place on the WHL First All-Star team and a Memorial Cup in 2007. Once his eligibility for the juniors was up, Franson turned pro and spent the next 2 seasons in the AHL with the Predators' minor league affiliate, the Milwaukee Admirals, scoring 88 points in 152 regular season games and 10 points in 17 playoff games. Not only that, but Franson was named to the AHL's All-Rookie team in 07-08, as well as earning a place at the AHL All-Star game and a second All-Star team spot in 08-09. What I'm trying to say is, the dude won his fair share of awards. Having found both personal and team success since his selection at the draft 4 years ago, Franson was ready to show that his time spent grinding away in the minors had helped him to refine his overall game to the standard that was expected in the National Hockey League. Thanks to his play in the coming year, Franson would be given the chance to prove it. The 09-10 season saw Franson begin the year in Milwaukee once again. However, after scoring 7 points in the first 6 games of the season, Franson was called up to Nashville's roster in order to make his NHL debut. Sometimes hard work and patience really does pay off, eh folks? Franson spent the rest of the season with the Predators and played pretty well in his first stint with the team, scoring 6 goals and 15 assists for 21 points in 61 games. This production helped the Predators make it to the playoffs, where the 22-year-old scored a single point in 4 games, but Nashville were eliminated in the first round by the Chicago Blackhawks. After his 3-year entry-level contract had expired, and having shown that he could hold his own in the bigs, Nashville were interested in keeping the defenseman around for the foreseeable future. So, on September 9th, 2010, the Predators signed Franson to a 2-year, $1.6 million contract worth an average annual value of $800,000 a season. Despite his yearly salary remaining pretty similar to his entry-level deal, Franson had worked his way up the depth chart and finally earned his place in the NHL. Thanks to his play continuing to improve in the years to come, Franson would be sticking around the best league in the world for quite some time. The 10-11 season saw Franson begin the year on the Predators roster out of training camp and see a slight improvement in his production during his sophomore year in the league, as he scored 8 goals and 21 assists for 29 points in 80 games. In doing so, Franson's 8 goals actually set his career high for goals scored in a season. Pretty mediocre, I know, but he's a 2-way defenseman, cut him some slack, guys. These numbers helped Nashville return to the playoffs once more, where Franson scored 6 points in 12 games, but Nashville were eliminated in the second round by the Vancouver Canucks. Though his stats were far from Norris Trophy caliber, the former 4th-round pick had continued to show growth and development in his game, whilst further solidifying his place on the Predators roster. However, Franson wouldn't be in Nashville for much longer. On July 3rd, 2011, it was announced that Nashville had traded Franson to the Toronto Maple Leafs, along with Matt Lombardi and a 2013 conditional 4th-round pick in exchange for Brett Ledber, Robert Slamey, and a 2013 conditional 4th round pick. After 6 years as a member of the Predators organization and 2 seasons on the team, Franson was leaving the only franchise he had ever known, and was moving to one of the biggest and most dedicated markets in the league. The 11-12 season saw Franson suit up for Toronto for the first time, and look to make a strong first impression with his new team. Unfortunately, the Canadian defenseman saw his numbers take a slight dip for the first time in his career, as he scored 5 goals and 16 assists for 21 points in a season limited to just 57 games for Franson due to injuries. This somewhat underwhelming production, compared to years prior, couldn't help Toronto make it to the playoffs, as the Maple Leafs missed out on the postseason for the 7th straight year. After his 2-year contract he had signed back with Nashville had expired, and having shown himself to be a steady presence on the back end, despite a slight drop in his numbers, the Maple Leafs were interested in keeping the defenseman around for a little longer. But first, there was a lockout! During the 12-13 lockout, Franson decided to take his talents overseas and sign with Brynäs IF of the Swedish Hockey League. The Canadian defenseman scored 7 points in 23 games with the Swedish side before the lockout came to an end. Just before the season finally got underway, on January 13th, 2013, Toronto signed Franson to a 1-year contract worth $1.2 million. With such a short-term deal, Franson knew that the Leafs were giving him a chance to prove he could take his game to the next level. He just needed to find a way to kick things up a notch if he wanted to stick around the original 6 franchise long term. The 26-year-old's brief trip overseas seemed to help his rate of production when he returned to the Leafs lineup, as he scored 4 goals and 25 assists for 29 points in 45 games. These stats helped Toronto finally clinch a postseason berth, where Franson notched 6 points in 7 games, but Toronto were eliminated in the first round by the Boston Bruins. After his 1-year contract had expired, and having seen his game continue to take steps in the right direction, the Leafs wanted to keep Franson around, but weren't ready to commit to a long-term deal. So, on September 26, 2013, Toronto signed Franson to another 1-year deal, this time worth $2 million. Though he had signed his second straight 1-year deal, Franson was determined to prove that the Maple Leafs' decision to give him a noticeable raise in his salary would be money well spent. Would he do so in the coming season? I'll let you decide. The 13-14 season saw Franson improve his overall numbers compared to the year prior, but saw a reduction in the rate in which he scored, as he potted 5 goals and 28 assists for 33 points in 79 games. The former 4th round pick also posted the worst plus-minus of his career at -20, which was uncharacteristically low for Franson compared to his previous 4 years in the league and even the rest of his NHL career. But anyway, despite reaching the 30-point plateau for the first time in his career, Toronto were unable to clinch their spot in the playoffs, as the Maple Leafs missed out on the postseason for the second time in 3 years. After his second consecutive 1-year contract had expired, and having seen his numbers continue to rise since moving to Ontario, the Maple Leafs wanted to keep the Canadian defenseman around for just a little bit longer. So, on July 23, 2014, Toronto signed Franson to another 1-year deal, this time worth $3.3 million. Despite being given a third short-term deal, Franson was receiving another large pay rise thanks to his increasing role on the team and his point totals continuing their upward trend. However, Franson would no longer be a Maple Leaf by this contract's conclusion. The 14-15 season saw Franson take to the ice with Toronto once more and start the year off strong, as he scored 6 goals and 26 assists for 32 points in the first 55 games of the year. However, on February 15, 2015, it was announced that Toronto had traded Franson to the Nashville Predators, along with Mike Santorelli in exchange for Olli Jokinen, Brendan Leipsic, and a 2015 first-round pick. After parts of 4 seasons in the True North, Franson was heading back to Nashville in order to rejoin the franchise that drafted him a decade ago. Franson spent the rest of the season in Nashville and scored a goal and 3 assists for 4 points in 23 games, bringing his season totals to 7 goals and 29 assists for 36 points in 78 games, meaning he set his career highs in assists and points. This limited production in his return to the Predators organization did help Nashville make it to the playoffs though, where Franson potted 2 points in 5 games, but the Predators were eliminated in the first round by the Chicago Blackhawks. Once his 3rd straight 1-year deal had expired, and with both the player and the organization unable to come to terms on a new contract, the 28-year-old defenseman decided to test the market as an unrestricted free agent. Though it would take several months for Franson to find an eligible suitor in need of his services and willing to pay well for it, it would certainly be worth the wait, as on September 10, 2015, Franson signed a 2-year, $6.6 million contract worth an average annual value of $3.3 million a season with the Buffalo Sabres. Thanks to his patience in getting a deal done and his decent resume in the league, Franson had just signed the biggest contract of his career. Would he live up to this deal though? The 15-16 season saw Franson suit up for Buffalo for the first time and look to get off to a strong start with his 3rd NHL team. Unfortunately, the former 4th-round pick took a real step backwards in his production compared to seasons prior, as he scored 4 goals and 13 assists for 17 points in a season limited to just 59 games for Franson due to injuries. These disappointing numbers, while healthy, didn't help Buffalo's pursuit of a place in the playoffs either, as the Sabres missed out on the postseason for the 5th straight year. Okay, so Franson had struggled in his first year with Buffalo, but he still had another year on his contract to turn things around and become a key point producer for his team. Unfortunately though, this wasn't meant to be. The 16-17 season saw Franson take to the ice with the Sabres once more and look to bounce back from a tough debut year in Buffalo. However, though he scored a few more points than last year, the Canadian defenseman continued to disappoint, as he notched 3 goals and 16 assists for 19 points in 68 games. These stats still wouldn't be enough to help Buffalo punch their ticket to the postseason, as the Sabres missed out on the playoffs yet again. Once his 2-year contract had expired, and with the Sabres clearly interested in exploring other options on the back end, Franson decided to go to the market again as a UFA. With teams around the league showing minimal interest in signing him to a standard contract, patience was once again a virtue for Franson, as on September 7, 2017, it was announced that Franson had signed a PTO contract with the Chicago Blackhawks. Franson's performance during Chicago's training camp managed to impress the Blackhawks front office enough that on October 4, 2017, he signed a 1-year contract worth $1 million with the team. Though Franson had needed to work hard in order to earn his new deal, the 30-year-old defenseman was ready to put a few down seasons behind him and get his numbers back on track. However, this would be the last contract Franson would sign in his NHL career. The 17-18 season saw Franson suit up for the Blackhawks for the first time and look to find his game again with his 4th NHL team. However, Franson did quite the opposite, as he scored just a goal and 6 assists for 7 points in 23 games. Franson's play was so disappointing that he spent most of the year with the Blackhawks' AHL affiliate, the Rockford IceHogs, where he had a much better showing, scoring 9 goals and 19 assists for 28 points in 37 games. Franson remained in the minors during the postseason and played very well for the Ice Hogs, scoring an impressive 13 points in 13 games, but Rockford were eliminated in the conference finals by the Texas Stars. Once his one-year deal had expired, neither Chicago nor any other team in the entire National Hockey League expressed interest in bringing Franson aboard for the upcoming season. So, the defenseman decided to take his talents to Europe, as on September 5th, 2018, Franson signed a 2-year contract with Avangard Omsk of the KHL. After parts of 9 seasons in the best league in the world, Franson was moving to the other side of the globe to see if his career could bounce back and find success in Russia. The 18-19 season saw Franson suit up for Omsk for the first time and look to get his KHL career off to a good start. The Canadian defenseman's debut in Russia went pretty well, as he scored 5 goals and 22 assists for 27 points in 54 games. This production helped Avangard earn a place in the playoffs, where Franson scored an impressive 18 points in 19 games, but Omsk were eliminated in the Gagarin Cup finals by CSKA Moscow. Though he had only just missed out on his first championship since turning pro, Franson had put in a good showing for his new side and was ready to carry this momentum into the second year of his deal. To this day, Cody Franson is still a member of Avangard Omsk. At the time of this recording, the alternate captain of the team has struggled to have the same impact on the scoresheet as he did last year, as he has scored just 14 points in 41 games. He has dealt with a few injuries, but I don't think that's the sole reason for this lack of production, do you? At 32 years old, Franson's time in the National Hockey League has likely passed, as it's unlikely he will find a place on an NHL roster in the coming years. With the current KHL season soon coming to a close, and his 2-year contract with Omsk expiring once this year is done, the Canadian defenseman has the opportunity to either re-sign with Omsk, move to another team in the KHL and continue his career in Russia, or take his talents to another team in Europe and continue to carve out a strong second half of his career across the pond. But regardless of what happens next for him, there is no doubt that Cody Franson had a pretty good NHL career. In 550 regular season games, Franson scored 43 goals and 169 assists for 212 points, as well as 15 points in 28 playoff games. Pretty impressive for a 4th round pick, if you ask me. And there you go. That's what happened to Cody Franson. What do you guys think about Franson's career? Was it good, bad, or do you think he will find a way to make another appearance in the NHL before he's done? I think it's highly unlikely, but sports are a crazy thing, right guys? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. A big thank you to Chris Gadsby, Connor B, Jordan Whitehead, and Martin Tolness, as well as a huge thank you to Max Artis and The Legacy for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.